Okay. Good morning, Amber. This
Morning.
is Sylvia Howe. I am a member of the archives team, and we are interested in your thoughts, your perception of what this COVID um, pandemic has done for us. Today is June 18th, 2020, and I have some questions for you, which you got earlier, and I hope you are willing to answer them. The first one, what in your past experience has helped you in this pandemic crisis?
Well, I do have some background in safety and sanitation. I've worked before as a house cleaner. I've worked in a commercial kitchen and also for a long time in an early childhood education setting. So I at least have some experience complying with health and safety regulations. Also, the church is not the first nonprofit that I've worked for. So I think having some of that experience with communication, social media, and just professionalism in general has helped me to keep online church polished and keep people connected.
How did you get the experience on social media, like the Zoom? I know you were one of the people who could actually help people figure it out.
Oh, sure. Well, the Renaissance modules that I've been taking, which are educational experiences for religious education professionals,
Mm-hmm.
those are all offered on Zoom. So having been a student in some of those classes over the course of the year before the pandemic hit, gave me some experience at least working with Zoom.
But you had more than just that experience. You're skilled. How'd you get that?
Right,
Is
right.
it just your age bracket?
I mean, it might be partially just my age bracket, but also, well, I guess I should say I'm 34 now for the context there. But with social media, I've done some stuff informally for different community organizations I'm involved with, including helping with the marketing department for Ohio Roller Derby. So that probably helped, just having done a little bit before.
I would agree. I think it helped a lot, Amber.
Thank you.
How has your job changed to meet the challenges of online church and closed building? What has been the most difficult thing?
I think the main change may have been just the increased focus on supporting worship. Both Kelly McNeil and myself have had more of an active role in providing worship than we normally do. Generally, I have some parts in worship, but then Sunday school in person is usually at the same time. So I'll do my part and then I go and check on all the classes. So that's been an interesting change. It's also been a little bit difficult to get families engaged. I think children, youth, and parents are feeling a little overwhelmed, and having just one more online meeting maybe isn't the most exciting option. So I'm definitely thinking about how to supplement online religious exploration with concrete activities families can try at home.
Oh, in your Renaissance modules, were you given any of these hints or information?
Definitely some. I took one Renaissance module that was about UU identity, and that was really interesting. I think framing religious exploration from a point of view of faith formation for both adults and children is definitely helpful.
And it'll be interesting for next year when you have to, we just don't know what's going to happen in the fall
Right.
at this point.
Yes, and some of the classes, like Our Whole Lives Sexuality Education, are not designed to be offered online. And so for the time being, we're on hiatus,
Mm-hmm.
which might mean that whenever we are able to start again, maybe we're a little more flexible on how old you can be. Maybe we have to offer more than one class, or we have some catch-up sessions. And I guess we'll see how that plays out with the coming of age program as well, whether it's even possible to start online only, or whether it makes more sense to just wait and change the format up once we're able to be in person.
Yeah, I know we talked about that earlier, and it is a definite challenge. And although all the coming of agers came every time, there wasn't the interaction, and that's so much a part of coming of age. Was the most difficult thing you did the interaction between families and getting people involved?
I think that's been kind of difficult, but it's still, it's still in process. The whole thing is sort of like a grand experiment since we don't have anything to compare it to that's happened in the past. So it's sort of been try one thing, see how it goes. If it doesn't work, try something else. So that's kind of what we'll be working on this summer and going into the autumn. I think all of the unknowns are sort of hard. We can't really plan because we don't know exactly when it will be safer and time to meet again in person. So that makes it hard for a variety of things, including like asking people to volunteer as Sunday school teachers.
Yeah. What were some of the things you tried that worked?
Well, we've had a couple of Zoom meetups where it was just parents and caregivers could come and talk about how they're doing. And I think folks appreciated having a place to share about the struggles of quarantine parenting and just what they're feeling right now. We also have been, with the youth group, we've been going online and playing games.
Oh.
And that seems to have been working pretty well. I think Zoom is a little awkward, and especially like the younger high schoolers don't necessarily want to talk a lot on Zoom, as we talked about with the coming of age class. Right. So playing games has allowed us to have fun and interact together without anyone feeling like they're put on the spot to talk.
One of the things I've been impressed that you've done are your Sunday morning stories for children. I have no idea how you find them, but they have been superb.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a little different. I mean, the story search is definitely part of it when we meet in person too, but instead of looking through books and scanning a book, I've been looking at stories online and then figuring out how to make them into slides and put them in the script. So yeah, it's definitely a labor of love.
Well, it's been very, very good, and I certainly have enjoyed it. The one you did last Sunday on forms of white privilege and racism was superb. And I know it was a canned thing, but it still was amazing.
Thank you.
So, how have you worked with the other staff to deal with the concerns of being online and not meeting in person?
Well, I think I'm very fortunate to be a part of this staff team. It's sort of a dream team. I think we all work together rather well. And I was lucky this year to have Reverend Eric as my supervisor. He gave me a really good grounding foundation with his love for the congregation and his history here. So I'm definitely going to miss him, and I'm not the only person that feels that way for sure. I think the senior staff had to work together to learn a lot of new technology on the fly, both for worship and everything else the church is doing, like the video blog emails and the UU Cares calling program and all of these other things. But I think different people had different skill sets to begin with, so we've been able to support each other, and people have really handled the transition with a lot of grace. So I feel really proud of what we've learned. It's been a little bit stressful in the budget season this year, these sort of unknowns about how much of a reduction in income we might have from pledges or rentals or other things. That's kind of tricky. I know a lot of the staff are experiencing a salary freeze and a reduction in their professional development budget. So we're going to be underpaid by Unitarian Universalist Association standards. But I'm sure we're all looking forward to when the congregation is able to lift us back up to the appropriate level.
I think that will happen. I think it may be a while, but I do think it will happen.
Yeah.
Thank you for being willing to work on these reduced circumstances.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have anything to add professionally about your job? When you took the job, of course, nobody ever anticipated this coming. uh,
Sure. Well, I mean, the first year in a new position, and for me, this is my first position as a religious education professional. So the first year is always going to be, a little weird, a little rocky, a large learning curve.
mhm.
And both me and Kelly McNeil, our congregational life coordinator, we're in our first year this year, and this is not the first year that we expected, of course. Especially because there's no good roadmap for churches to move through a pandemic time like this. So it's certainly been an adventure, and it continues to be an adventure moving into this next church year.
Yeah. It must be hard to really make any kind of solid plans. It must be all, well, what if? This is what we'll do. Yeah. In terms of your personal life, how has the pandemic and the restrictions affected your daily life?
Well, I think I miss hugging people for sure. I miss seeing my friends more frequently, skating for roller derby and social dancing. I think I'm really missing like some of the big group activities that I used to take for granted, especially during this time of year. There are usually so many street festivals and big outdoor events in Columbus during the summertime. So I sort of feel the absence of all those things that we would normally be doing around this time of year.
Yeah, the Pride Parade.
Yeah, definitely. And the upside is spending, more time with my partner, with my pet cat, focusing on tasks around the house I wouldn't get to otherwise. Currently, I'm sorting through a lot of stuff I've collected over the years. My partner and I are hoping to buy a house sometime later this year, so I'm trying to get rid of things to make it a little easier once we move.
That moving always does help sorting through. However, having done it many times, you reaccumulate.
Right. Yeah. There are definitely upsides and downsides to staying in one place for too long,
Right. What have you done to make your life as normal as possible?
We've still been seeing small groups of our close friends using safety precautions. Recently for my birthday, we went over to a friend's house and sat in the backyard with all of our chairs distanced far apart from each other. And we just got to sit and visit and talk. But it was definitely weird not being able to hug each other, get close to each other, or any of those sort of normal things that you would do.
Yeah.
I've also been trying to stay in touch with my family, whether that's through talking on the phone or texting or writing letters. It's been kind of strange having more alone time and also working from home, but it's certainly not all bad.
Do you Zoom with your family?
Sometimes. I've done a couple big family Zooms where it's like all my cousins and their spouses and aunts and uncles, and a few with my immediate family where it's just my parents and my brother and myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do that too. Every week.
Yeah, nice.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
I can't think of anything in particular other than that I think going through this is probably going to change the nature of church forever. I think after this, we're probably going to continue to stream our services for a long time. Even if we're having an in-person service, I think there may always be a video component for people who are not there in person. So it'll be interesting to see, the cultural shifts both within our congregation, and around the world.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. How do you think this affects those of my generation? I see your generation and cohort group as adapting very easily. What about my generation?
It seems like it's been kind of a mix because on the one hand, some people like you have like picked up the technology and gotten connected in ways that maybe you weren't connected before. I think there are people who weren't talking to their family every week that maybe
Mhm.
are now. But on the other hand, I think there are also some people who, for one reason or another, haven't been able to pick up the technology or adopt it easily. And some of those people are probably feeling extra isolated.
Mhm. Is the church tracking those people? Do you know? I don't know.
Well, I think with the UU Cares program where folks call each other to check in, there's been some of that, but I know that Reverend Marion is looking to do more in terms of checking in with people we haven't heard from in a while and identifying people that live alone, especially
Mhm.
so that we can
Mhm.
make sure that they're connected and maybe create some community between different people that are in the same situation.
Mhm. Well, I do know that the archives group who's sponsoring this, everybody figured out how to use Zoom. It's taken a while. Well, we've been doing it for now 2 months, but everybody figured it out. And like the coming of age, that the archives group meets every week and everybody is there. So I think it is possible.
Right. It's definitely doable.
Yeah.
We are learning.
We are learning is right. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything that you'd like to add?
Just, I guess I'm looking forward to the future. I know there's a lot of unknowns, but I'm grateful to be here and I look forward to learning how different the future may be together with the rest of the church.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can turn the record off if you want.